Hi, and welcome back to Kohelet. We're at chapter 3, verse 12. Yadati ki ein tov bam, ki im lismoach v'lasos tov b'chayav. I knew that there is no good in them, but to be happy, make joy, and experience good in the person's life. In other words, whether the good that the person experiences moment to moment and the joys that the person has in their life, or the good that they create in their interactions with life, we know that that is really the good that the person can have in life. Because life is always changing and we have no full control over what happens in the future, ultimately the only good that we really have is those moment-to-moment experiences of happiness and joy and the good we create in those moments. And Kohelet continues, V'gam kala adam sheyochal v'shasa v'ra tov b'chal amalo matas Elohim hi. Listen to the pattern for the Hebrew speakers. Listen to the poetry and the pattern in the sentences. And also all mankind that eats and drank and experienced good in all of his efforts is a given of God. It's a gift of God. In other words, all of these experiences that we have, these experiences of happiness and joy and the things that we get, even those things that we get because of our efforts, ultimately we have to understand that we have no control over them and they're really gifts that are given to us. And many of their factors are outside of our control. And so we have to appreciate them. We're forced to appreciate those things, even those things that we desire to attain. We must still appreciate them as gifts that are given to us from outside of our control. And that's the only way to really ultimately have full appreciation of them. Yadati ki kol asher yaseh Elohim hu yiyeh lo-olam. Alav ein lahosif umimenu ein ligroa. V'Elohim asa sheyiru milfanav. I knew that whatever God does, that's always what will be. To it can't be added, and from it can't be detracted. And God made it so that awe be experienced from before him. And so this is a continuation of the discussion that came before. Ultimately, we have no full control over the things that we do and experience and have and even pursue in this world. Ultimately, they're outside our control, and we have to accept that. However, there's a sense and a sensibility in the fact that it was all set up this way. And the idea is that we're able to experience a sense of awe and a sense of humility before everything that goes on about us in the world. Because we have a certain understanding of what's happening beyond us, and a certain grasp and a certain attempt and a desire to achieve over which we have some control, but ultimately we have no full control over that. That's what gives us a sense of suspension between our desire to achieve and our purposefulness and our understanding and the sense that we lack understanding and we're unable to achieve. And that suspension between what we want and what we're desiring and trying to get and what we cannot get, that gives us the sense of awe before the greater universe that's beyond us, that's in a certain sense not fully attainable. And it gives us this humility and this sense of the beauty and awe of everything that's beyond us. But it's even more than that. Because suppose that everything in life had been completely random and unpredictable, and nothing that we do gives us anything at all, and there's no way for us to achieve anything based on the things that we do. If that were the case, then our lives would make no sense, and none of our efforts would make any sense, and there would be complete purposelessness and meaninglessness in everything. On the other hand, if everything that we did was perfectly controllable, and everything worked in a perfect cause and effect manner, and everything was completely predictable, then life would be equally meaningless and purposeless, because there would be no challenge and there would be no game in our efforts in this world. But because things operate in such a way that we're suspended between an ability to control and a desire to achieve, and the fact that in many cases and to a large extent that does pay off, but at the same time there's a certain randomness and a certain unpredictability and a certain amount to which the things that occur due to our efforts are to some extent outside of our control. That creates this dynamic and this game and this situation where everything that occurs in the world has some sense of challenge and has some sense of us wanting to achieve and desiring and putting in the effort, but at the same time not being fully predictable and boring and meaningless and purposeless. And so these two sides of the coin come together to create our experience in the world that manifests in a way that provide us meaning and challenge and purpose. And Kohelet continues, and here's one of the most beautiful verses and the crux and the climax of much of the discussion. Masha haya kvar hu, va'asher lios kvar haya, v'ha'elohim yivakesh es nirdaf. What was already is, and what is to be already was. And God desires the pursued, the chased, the thing that is chased and pursued. In other words, the purpose of everything that's happening is that there should be a pursuit. God's desire is channeled, the real purpose of everything that's happening is aimed at the thing that is pursued. In other words, it doesn't necessarily matter what's pursued in the larger game. Of course, it does matter in many senses. It's not that anything can be equally pursued. Of course, it matters. But in the much larger sense, when you peel back the onion to the layer underneath, the point is that there should be a pursuit. God's desire is really toward the pursued, the thing, whatever it is, that's pursued. And the purpose is that there should be something that's pursued. And that's why there are these swings in the pendulum that keeps moving back and forth. The purpose is the pursuit, and the pursuit is the purpose itself in a certain sense. So we had discussed in the poem About Time, Kohelet had said, Ma yisron ha'osa ba'asher hu amel. Because everything is constantly changing and swinging back and forth and outside of our control, and many of the things towards which we drive, by the time we get there, they're purposeless and things have changed to be completely the opposite. And therefore, what's the point of all the efforts that we expend? And the answer is here, V'Elohim yivakesh es nirdaf. The point is that there should be a pursuit. There must be something that is pursued. So even though things are repetitive, and everything already was in a sense, and even yet things are always changing into their opposites, nevertheless, there is an underlying point, and the point is that there should be something that is pursued. Now, I want to point out the juxtaposition of the ends of the last several sentences. 2 sentences ago, the point was Matas Elohim Hi. It's all a gift of God. All of those experiences and the good that we do and that we experience, we must experience it as a gift for us to really have the full appreciation and goodness that comes of it. And here, in this sentence, it's Elohim yivakesh es nirdaf. God desires for us to chase things and to grasp at things and to want to get things, the opposite of the gift. And the in-between sentence had ended with Elohim asa sheyiru milfanav. God made it so that all be experienced before him. And all of these things are meant to work together, and it's all a key to understanding many of the foregoing verses and points that were made in Kohelet and life in general. For our life consists of 2 sides of the coin. On the one hand, we're meant to chase things, we're meant to desire things, we're meant to go after things, we're meant to have challenges, and it must be so. If we were just to sit back and have everything fed to us on a silver spoon and expend no efforts toward anything, our life would be utterly horrible and boring and have no point, and it would just fall apart and disintegrate very quickly. Humankind is meant, and humankind's very constitution and makeup is channeled toward and created for the existence of challenge and the pursuit of those challenges and the pursuit of things in the world and trying to get things and trying to achieve things and trying to overcome obstacles. And that was the entire point of the poem About Time, how we have all these desires and we pursue things. And it has to be that way. If humankind were not to do those things, it would not be able to exist in the form that it has. And people who don't overcome challenges and try to achieve things, their life quickly falls apart into nihilism and purposelessness. Yet, on the other hand, if a human being were only to pursue achievement and desires and the attempt to gain things more and more, no matter what those things are, and to put their entire focus and being specifically only into those things, and in the event that they wouldn't be able to achieve those things, their efforts would be meaningless to them because their entire focus is only on the pursuit and the grasping of those things, their life would be equally frustrated because ultimately those pursuits are outside of their control. And therefore, the only way that humankind is able to exist in real happiness and meaningfulness and joy in the experiences of the world is to hang between the balance of these two sides. Even though that's a paradox to some extent, the human must attempt and pursue and achieve and desire and have a goal and drive towards things all of the time, and to some extent achieve them, and at the same time understand that all of those things are to a certain extent outside of their control, and they're only a gift to the person. And when the person is able to fully achieve and understand and live with both of those sides at the same time, everything being a gift and yet everything being a challenge and a need to get to certain points which the person is pursuing, that person has true meaningfulness and true purpose and true happiness in life. And even the small things that the person gets moment to moment, those things are able to be a source of happiness and joy. And that's really what gives the person the true awe in the experience of the universe and of God. The awe before their experiences in this world and the things that they're able to achieve and the meaningfulness in their life and the humility that comes from being able to live this way with the understanding that everything is a gift and yet everything must be achieved. And there's a certain sense of awe and purpose and meaningfulness and beauty and humility that's intertwined with this type of life. And that's what Kohelet is telling us here. And it's all tied together with the entire message that has come before us. Now, I want to read to you the well-known poem Eternity by William Blake, which was written in the late 1700s or early 1800s. He who binds himself to a joy does the winged life destroy. He who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kohelet again. Please hit the like button, hit subscribe, feed the algorithm so that we can feed you more of Kohelet.